Hulk Hogan is undeniably one of the biggest names in wrestling history, a true icon whose larger-than-life persona helped define an entire era. But like any legend, Hogan wasn't without his controversies, especially backstage. As wrestling evolved, Hogan's towering presence sometimes clashed with the rising stars trying to make their own mark. It's no secret that while Hogan was loved by fans worldwide, his relationships with some fellow wrestlers were complicated, to say the least. Behind the scenes, egos run high, and even the biggest legends have their personal struggles with others. Hogan's fierce pride in his legacy sometimes rubbed others the wrong way, sparking tension with some of wrestling's top talents. From established veterans to hungry newcomers, many found themselves at odds with the man who once ruled the ring. In this piece, we'll take a closer look at 6 wrestlers: John Cena, Randy Orton, Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, and Steve Austin, who reportedly had complicated, sometimes hostile relationships with Hogan. By exploring these stories, we can get a more human look at what happens when legends collide behind the curtain. 1. John Cena, age 48. John Cena has been a defining figure in WWE for nearly 2 decades, embodying the modern face of professional wrestling. Known for his relentless work ethic, connection with fans, and adaptability, Cena carried the company through some of its most important years during the 2000s and 2010s. But despite his public success and popularity, his relationship with Hulk Hogan wasn't without its challenges. Hogan, a legendary star from wrestling's golden era in the 80s and 90s, carried a monumental legacy and a strong sense of pride in the way wrestling was back then. A time that felt more raw, personal, and less polished. Cena, representing a newer generation, brought a more polished, media-savvy approach, one that was highly strategic and aimed at appealing to a younger, digitally connected audience. This difference in perspective naturally led to some tension. Hogan sometimes viewed Cena's style as overly commercialized, worrying that the soul of wrestling was being lost in the process. On the other side, Cena felt that Hogan, as much as he was a pioneer, was hesitant to fully embrace the changes that wrestling needed to stay relevant and exciting in a new era. Although Cena's rise to the top was undeniable, and he earned the admiration of many, he occasionally felt overshadowed by Hogan's insistence on maintaining his position as one of wrestling's greatest icons. Importantly, this wasn't about personal animosity, but rather a classic clash between the old guard and the new wave. Cena respected Hogan's incredible contributions to the sport, but also found it difficult at times to collaborate with someone so fiercely protective of their place in history. Their story is a reflection of wrestling's broader journey, balancing respect for the past with the need to innovate for the future. 2. Randy Orton, age 45. Randy Ortonis. Another star whose journey through WWE has been shaped by wrestling's deep traditions as well as its evolving nature. Growing up in a wrestling family, Orton has always been aware of the sport's rich history, but his professional relationship with Hulk Hogan was marked more by a respectful rivalry than personal dislike. Hogan's larger-than-life personality and reputation for commanding attention sometimes clashed with Orton's own style, which is known for being cold, precise, and calculated. Orton's quiet confidence often ran into the kind of flamboyance and ego that Hogan was famous for, leading to an undercurrent of tension. This wasn't rooted in personal conflict at first, but rather in competition. Hogan was accustomed to being the main attraction and expected respect from everyone in the locker room, while Orton, ambitious and determined, was not someone to back down or fade quietly into the background. During the early 2000s, as Orton's star began to rise and Hogan was making guest appearances, the subtle rivalry intensified. Behind the scenes, Hogan's influence was significant, and some younger wrestlers felt it was harder to claim the spotlight when Hogan's shadow still loomed large. While Orton and Hogan were never openly hostile, their relationship was tinged with mutual wariness. Orton's focus was clear. He wanted to build his own legacy on his own terms, pushing forward without being eclipsed by past legends. This dynamic illustrates the complex balance in wrestling between honoring the past and carving out space for new stars to shine. 3. Cody Rhodes, age 40. Cody Rhodes represents a newer generation of wrestlers with a deep respect for the sport's history, but also a desire to push boundaries and reshape wrestling's future. As the son of the iconic Dusty Rhodes, Cody carries his own legacy, but has always sought to establish his identity independently. Working alongside or around someone as influential as Hulk Hogan, however, hasn't always been easy. Cody has openly talked about the challenges of navigating Hogan's dominant personality, particularly when it came to creative decisions backstage. Hogan's immense popularity gave him significant sway in shaping storylines and booking choices, and sometimes those decisions didn't fully align with what Cody and other younger wrestlers believed would resonate best with modern audiences. For Cody, who wanted to be recognized not just as a competitor, but also as a creative force, this dynamic could be frustrating. Their tensions weren't limited to in-ring performances, but extended deeply into creative control and mutual respect behind the scenes. While Cody pushed for progress, innovation, and a fresh vision for wrestling, Hogan often maintained a traditional, old-school approach, centered on his style and legacy. This tug-of-war highlighted a larger reality for many young wrestlers, balancing reverence for wrestling's rich history with the need to evolve and make the sport relevant to today's fans. Cody's journey speaks to the difficulties faced by the new generation as they seek to honor the legends who came before, while also breaking free to tell their own stories. 4. Seth Rollins, age 39. Bridging generations with innovation. Seth Rollins shines as one of WWE's most dynamic stars. His wrestling style is an exciting blend of speed, technical skill, and charisma that really connects with today's fans. Rollins represents a generation that embraces athleticism and fast-paced storytelling in the ring, offering something fresh and modern. But behind the scenes, his path hasn't been without challenges, especially in relation to legends like Hulk Hogan. Hogan, a towering figure from wrestling's golden era, embodies a different philosophy. He grew up valuing the grand spectacle, the larger-than-life personalities, dramatic storytelling, and charisma that turned wrestling into a cultural phenomenon. Naturally, Seth's modern style and Hogan's classic approach sometimes lead to creative differences. Hogan's voice still carries weight in booking and backstage decisions, which can occasionally make it tricky for newer talents like Seth to push their ideas fully. That said, this isn't a story of conflict, but one of growth and respect. Seth understands the importance of honoring wrestling's roots, while also recognizing the need for evolution. He respects Hogan deeply for his contributions, yet he's also determined to chart his own course. Rollins embodies the balancing act wrestling faces today, blending tradition with innovation to create something that resonates across generations. His journey is a reminder that wrestling is a living art form, one that must respect its past, but never be afraid to try new things. Seth's role is vital because he represents the future, showing fans and fellow wrestlers alike how to bridge the gap between eras with both reverence and boldness. 5. Roman Reigns, age 40. The face of today and tomorrow, Roman Reigns stands at the pinnacle of WWE's current landscape. As the company's flagship star, he carries the weight of being not just a champion in the ring, but a symbol for wrestling's future. His style is a powerful mix of strength, charisma, and storytelling, perfectly tailored to meet the expectations of a modern audience that craves authenticity and intensity. Yet, like many who rise to prominence, Roman's journey hasn't been without its complexities, especially when it comes to the veterans who shaped wrestling's past. Hulk Hogan, a titan from an earlier era, has a style that's rooted in nostalgia, larger-than-life showmanship, and a deep connection to the wrestling traditions he helped build. Roman's quick rise sometimes intersected with Hogan's desire to keep those traditions front and center. Behind the scenes, this created an interesting dynamic. While Hogan has always been supportive of wrestling's growth, his attachment to the past meant he sometimes preferred things to follow a certain way. Roman, on the other hand, is pushing boundaries and defining what a modern wrestling superstar looks like. There have been moments where Hogan's protective nature over his legacy made it a little harder for Roman to get full backing, but it's never been anything personal. More an illustration of how wrestling is constantly evolving. What makes their relationship compelling is the mutual understanding they share. Both men know what it means to be the face of WWE, with all the pressures and responsibilities that role demands. This shared experience creates a respect that transcends any backstage challenges, revealing the complexity of wrestling's ongoing story, a story where the old guard and the new generation dance together to keep the show alive and exciting. Roman's career is a testament to how wrestling grows by building on its history, while also embracing fresh ideas. His success is a bridge to the future, grounded firmly on the foundation laid by legends like Hogan. 6. Steve Austin, age 60. The rebel who redefined wrestling. Steve Austinus, one of wrestling's most iconic figures, known for shaking things up and bringing a new edge to the sport. His stone-cold persona was groundbreaking in the late 90s, a tough, rebellious anti-hero who challenged authority and brought a raw, relatable attitude that resonated with fans worldwide. Austin's story contrasts sharply with Hulk Hogan's, whose clean-cut, heroic image dominated wrestling during the 80s and early 90s. This difference in style and personality made their backstage relationship interesting and sometimes complicated, but also deeply reflective of wrestling's broader transformation. Hogan was the defining figure of his era, a man who helped make wrestling a global spectacle, beloved for his charisma and larger-than-life presence. Austin, however, brought wrestling into a new age with his authenticity and willingness to break from the polished, heroic mold. This shift was part of wrestling's natural evolution, a movement toward characters who were more complex and stories that were grittier and more realistic. While Austin has mentioned that Hogan's era had a different energy and that Hogan's influence was strong behind the scenes, there was never any bad blood. Instead, their relationship symbolized a passing of the torch, with Austin's rebellious spirit complementing Hogan's legacy. Their dynamic captures the tension between wrestling's past and future, showing how the sport can honor tradition while embracing change. Austin's impact helped redefine what wrestling could be, broadening its appeal and inspiring future generations of wrestlers to bring their own unique voices and styles to the ring. Conclusion: the complex legacy of Hulk Hogan and his locker room rivalries. Hulk Hogan's influence on professional wrestling is truly legendary. He wasn't just a superstar in the ring, he was the face of an entire era, inspiring countless fans and helping to shape wrestling into the global phenomenon it is today. But like many figures who reach such heights, Hogan's journey was marked by more than just victories and cheers. Behind the scenes, the relationships he had with other wrestlers were often complicated, reflecting the natural challenges that come with being at the center of such a high-stakes competitive world. The stories of Hogan's interactions with stars like John Cena, Randy Orton, Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, and Steve Austin reveal a layered picture. These weren't just clashes of egos, but moments where the past and future of wrestling met head-on. Hogan's strong personality and deep connection to wrestling's golden age sometimes made it tough to fully embrace the fresh styles and ambitions of newer generations. At the same time, these tensions were part of a bigger story about how wrestling evolves, how the legends who built it gradually share the stage with rising talents eager to make their mark. What comes through most clearly is that Hogan, for all his larger-than-life presence, was also human, navigating the pressures of fame, competition, and change. These backstage moments remind us that wrestling isn't just about what happens in the ring. It's also about relationships, respect, and sometimes rivalry. The push and pull between Hogan and the next wave of stars helped wrestling stay vibrant and relevant. Ultimately, Hogan's legacy is far more than just his victories or his iconic persona. It's a complex story of triumph, struggle, and transition. And it's this human side of the legend that makes his impact on wrestling so enduring and meaningful. Stay informed, stay updated, hit that subscribe button.